your legacy lies in the last person that knows your name. Um, and so what I really want to do and establish is um, two very different types of legacies. I have the legacy that I want to establish in my children,
Mm,
so that you know I was really blessed to have really good parents growing up. My wife was blessed to have good parents too, um, and that's a real big fortune for a lot of people because a lot of people don't have that.
mm.
But what I've always wanted to establish is take all the really good things that I got from my parents and infuse the things that I felt could be even stronger
Yep.
for my kids.
Welcome everybody to the Automan Podcast. I'm No Justin No Peace, aka Justin Brandon, and I'm sitting here today with Thomas White of TMW Realty. Correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Give us a quick bio if you tell us what does TMW Realty do.
So TMW Realty is the brainchild of myself and my wife. We started this company. Wow, has to be about maybe 5 years ago.
Uh,
But I've been doing real estate for a little over 10 to 12 years. Um, Basically, we've branched out from being just a real estate group that deals with buying, selling, leasing
okay.
homes. We flip homes now under TMW Realty
Okay.
Investors. We're moving a lot into the commercial streams now. We're just an all around one stop shop real estate company.
Wow. That's great. So you're perfect for this conversation. So where I want to take this conversation into three pillars. I want to talk about real estate. I want to
Mhm.
talk about you as a business owner and give some information for some of our viewers that may be looking into starting their own business, and yourself as a man of faith. I know you personally, so I know that's a part of
Right.
your life. But
Yes, sir.
you started as a real estate agent,
Mhm.
and there are, especially in this era, there are a ton of apps out like realtor.com. There are all these different things that are enticing for a person to go into this journey of buying a home on their own.
Mhm.
um, what would you say to everybody about the necessity or the benefit of going with a real estate agent as opposed to using one of these apps?
I think in this age of digital perfection, if you will, everyone's using all of these streams, and that's fine. But you can't replace a real estate agent or broker. I think it's essential, especially a good one.
Mm,
I know there's a lot of people out here who try to create side hustles and people who are trying to do this, that, and the other, and that's fine.
yep.
But if you're really trying to get the full scope of the benefit of what you're doing when you're buying a home, you really need an actual capable broker. There's so much that goes into buying a home that I don't think people really recognize
Yep.
that you can't get through an app alone. I mean, oftentimes, someone will go on Zillow and they'll look for a house, and the house will say, "Hey, look, go buy this house for 400,000," and you have no idea the parameters that go into that purchase.
Mm,
How is it going to look for you in 10 years? What's this going to look like? What's that going to look like? Are there any negative catches in that process? Is Zillow overvaluing the property?
mm,
All these things happen that people
yes,
don't really recognize, and the market is very different everywhere you go.
absolutely.
Just with one of my clients out in Quincy, we were looking at a house. The house was valued at 378. Right now, the house is going off the market at 395
Mm,
because markets change and markets are different, and you
yes.
can't rely on arbitrary machines to tell you, hey, look, this is the right way to go. You need to have someone that actually knows the process,
Mm.
and that's why you should have a good realtor.
That sounds great. And I mean, in my experience, everybody I think you start out with looking in these apps, but to have someone to walk with you through this journey is very,
Exactly.
very important. So when should I contact an agent?
I think honestly, people might sound crazy, but I think everybody should contact an agent the moment they're serious about buying a home.
Mm,
I'm not talking about serious about a particular home, but just the idea of buying a home. So, for example, if you decide, during this COVID quarantine,
mhm.
that you're sick of living in this apartment building, you no longer want to live here, and you're ready to go ahead buy a home, that's the time that you should call an agent and set up that process,
Mhm.
because a lot of people suffer from lack of information until they wait until the very moment that they're ready to actually go buy a house.
Mm.
You could fix so many things if you had someone with you from the moment you decided to make this plan. Think of it this way: you don't go to a gym and wait until you get fit to then go and get a trainer. You go and get your trainer at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
and learn the tips so that you can get to your goal a lot quicker. So
Perfect. That makes sense. So now there are going to be some people who have never been in the experience before, and they
yeah.
could you just take us through the process of buying a home, like just the steps. What does it look like? Okay, so um, we found something.
Mhm.
You're representing us as an agent. What is our next step? What does that look like?
So, well, for me, my steps with someone's very different than some other agents. The first thing that I do with any client is we have a sit down with a team.
Mm,
So my team consists of the lender, the attorney that's going to work with you, and all the pieces that actually make up your real estate process.
mm,
The first thing we do is make sure that you're fit to purchase, and what that means is everybody wants to go out and see a house. I back in the day when I started this business, if you called me and say, "Hey, look, I want to go see a house," we just go running out to see a house
yeah.
immediately. I don't do that. What we do now is, are you credit worthy to receive a house? Are you able to do this? If we did like this house when we went to see it, we'll be able to close on it in 30 to 45 days.
Mm,
If we can't say yes to those things, then we don't need to go and see the house.
yep.
If we don't know where your numbers fall, we don't go and see a house.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is I've had clients who've said to me, "Hey, man, I want to go and I love this house. It's $800,000." And you can't buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, where your numbers are. You know what that mortgage would look like.
Yeah.
Even houses that are 400,000 and 500,000, you may not be in the position to assume that type of debt.
Yep.
So because you're not in that position, we don't need to go and see all of these different things. We need to get you prepared. So before we go out and do anything, we have the powwow meeting. After the powwow meeting,
Yeah.
and we know where your numbers are and we know where things are, then we set up a game plan for what you're looking for. You'd be surprised how many people think they're looking for a particular thing
Mm,
and then get out and see a couple of houses and it completely changes. When I first went to buy my own house, I wasn't looking to live in the area that I'm living in now. I was
yeah.
looking to live in a total different community further out. But then as you begin to check things out and see what you like, you begin to adjust.
Yep.
So all of it really starts with, hey, look, the powwow meeting, then we know what you're looking for and get an idea of where you are, and then we start going into the general process of purchasing the home. Once we get into that purchase process for the home, that's a 30 to 45-day hit,
Yeah.
and that's really standard for most people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's something that you said. Your ideas of what you're interested in a home changes.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
a lot of people are looking for that perfect home. Well, you hear the process of starter home or
Yep.
the forever home. But is there a perfect home? Do people ever really find a perfect home?
Ah, I think people find homes that are perfect for them at the point that they're at in their lives.
Mm,
I mean, realistically, if you look at the data actually says that most people shift homes every 7 to 10 years,
mm,
and the reason for that is, consider it. You may have bought a home. When I bought my first home, I was late 20s.
mhm,
Bought my first home, and years later and kids later, you find, okay, maybe my home's not big enough for what I need, or maybe I
mhm.
need to shift, or maybe my community's changed. So things change, and you shift and go forward into a different spectrum of a home.
Yep.
So I would say that yes, there is a perfect home, but it's a perfect home for a specific season of your life.
Yeah.
And when that season changes, then there's need to shift up and go somewhere else.
In the process, I realized that it's important not to sweat the small stuff, like
Absolutely.
color of paint,
Yeah.
because those
Yeah.
things could be changed.
Develop.
It's so
Develop.
simple. The color of the door.
Hmm.
You could
Hmm.
even change floors, like all of those things. But it's important that you have the rooms that you need at that moment.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
bathrooms that you need at that moment. Anything for your
Absolutely.
particular lifestyle. Because there's a lot of things that you could just add on. Um, yeah, yeah. So I it there like I agree with you. There's probably no perfect home perfect for you at the time, and I think that
Mhm.
people need to understand that. One thing that we did when we were looking into buying a home, I had wrote a list of the things that we were interested in. There were a list
Yep.
of of things that Sure, I would want this, but then there
Mhm.
were the most important things, which would be, the amount of bedrooms, the amount
Yeah.
of bathrooms, and those things. And we
Mhm.
basically got everything that we wanted on that list except for a garage. But then you realize, as long as I have, a nice driveway, I don't need a garage. So you make there's a
Yeah.
balance.
And you have to adjust to see what you really want to go after. I mean, when I purchased, one of the formative things for me was, okay, I need to have land, because I expected to have kids and I wanted to
Mm,
make sure that I had a good amount of space for the kids to play. I needed to have a garage. I couldn't deal with, snow on my car, Boston lifestyle anymore. So I said, forget that. So I really focused on certain things. But when we bought this house, it wasn't what it is now. I mean, I can tell you right now, in my home, it was wall to wall carpet. We don't have that at all
mm,
anymore. We've renovated the kitchens. We've done a whole bunch of things.
yep,
So really, you have to know yourself and what you like and don't like. If you're an extrovert and you have lots of friends and you like to have, social gatherings,
yeah,
maybe you need space in certain areas of the house that, maybe someone who's more introverted and doesn't get out that much doesn't need that much
yep,
space. If you're an entertainer, or if you need a space that you can kind of crash and like man cave your life,
yep.
you have to make sure you have those type of things. But it really depends on the person. So that's why we say perfect homes are for, people in specific times, specific seasons and lives.
Perfect. Um, we're in a particular time, and I believe, like, if you were maybe like 2 months ago and you were like, I think I'm gonna purchase a home, and then maybe now you're feeling kind of shaky. I mean, should they feel shaky? Is this a good time to purchase a home? Is it a bad time to purchase a home? Should they pause? Should they keep going? What would you say?
Well, to be honest with you, this is actually the most aggressive real estate time that's been here, in I would say months. I think COVID-19 has actually created even more of a pandemic for purchasing,
Mm,
uh, than it was, prior to it. And I think the reason why is this. This is a massive change for everybody. I mean, we
huge.
all know life as we've known it has changed and will stay changed. It's not going to go back to it exactly the way it was before.
Yep.
But what I've seen with my clients and people I've taken out for showings and things like that, houses are going fast.
Mm,
They're not slow. They're not lagging on the market. I mean, you can go and see a house today; it'll be off the market tomorrow.
mm,
There are bidding wars on every house that's out there, and I think the reason why is the people who are looking now, have the time to look.
yes.
Maybe were in position prior to,
Yes.
so there's really no delay in the ability to
Yeah.
purchase a home. So
Yeah.
is it a good time to buy a home? If you're still gainfully employed, or at least you haven't been, completely decimated by the market,
Yes.
this is actually a great time to purchase,
Mm,
because there are still major deals to be had, in certain areas. Boston, in particular, um, understand this is not the 2008 housing crisis.
yeah.
This is a health crisis, but it's
Yeah.
not a housing crisis.
Yeah. We're not there.
So houses are still viable. The market is still strong.
Yep.
Houses are still selling for astronomical prices. If you can afford to purchase a home, this is still a good time to purchase a home. I think the selectivity is a little stronger now for buyers because, hey, look, we're all home. We're all seeing these things on the market, and
Yep.
we all know what we want. So it's still a great time to buy or sell, to be honest.
Perfect. So people should, have a good outlook if they were already in the process or thinking about being in the
Absolutely.
process. You brought up 2008, and I think that's a lot of people's insecurity, especially like movies like Big Short that brought it to light what actually happened in
Mhm.
that world, and we're not there. Obviously, we're not
Not at
there.
all.
This is
Not
a
at all.
serious health crisis, which is very serious. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people are trying to move out of apartments anyway. Nobody wants to be on top and right
Mhm.
next to each other either. Um, so interest rates, are they down? Stock prices are looking crazy. Everybody's like buy, 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 buy. What about the
Well,
interest rates?
interest rates are actually very low, and they were actually low prior to COVID's,
Mm,
situation. So it's not terrible. We're actually doing a seminar, online Facebook Live seminar tomorrow,
mm,
about the market and buying and selling, with TMW. But the market's not bad, and neither is the interest rates. The interest rates are actually really, really good. When I bought my home, I think my interest rate was like 3.99,
Hmm.
and this is the time that you're actually seeing those type of numbers return with force.
Mm.
Of course, it all depends on your credit worthiness, but
Yeah.
if you're credit worthy, this is a great time to chase after getting that loan and getting it locked in.
Yeah.
So
Perfect. All right. So, I mean, as we the people that are interested in purchasing a house, what would you say is their first step? I'm interested in purchasing a house. I was on Zillow. I seen
mhm.
something I like. What should I do? Where do I go? Nobody in my family has ever owned a home before.
Mhm.
So, what does this process look like for me? What's my next step?
All right. So next step is, okay, you've seen a house that you like. We see what your numbers are. Let's get you pre-approved.
Hmm.
Let's get you pre-approved. First step, first and foremost, pre-approval.
Bank or
And the
broker?
reason,
Bank or broker?
yeah, banker broker, you said.
Yeah. Do I go to my bank or should I go to a broker, mortgage broker?
If you go to a bank, you're fine. If you go to a specific lending broker, you're still fine. I mean, we
Yep.
work with banks and brokers.
Okay.
Um, it's okay either which way you go, but you need to get pre-approved.
Yep.
It depends, and obviously, sometimes working with a broker might be a little bit easier because you might get that one-on-one personal care that you may need. We work with a great group of people. First Home Mortgage, Dave Licardi, who's a good friend of mine. As a broker, he's just on it. I mean, you can call him at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and you can get your information done. I know you're going to hate me for saying that, but 1, 2, 3 in the morning, easily you can call him and get your pre-approvals in.
Yep.
Um, but you really want to go and get your pre-approval. That's the first step. Whether you go from a bank, a credit union, or an individual broker, separate group, you want to get that pre-approval. Once that pre-approval is in hand, you need to call your real estate broker immediately. Like,
Mm.
okay, this is my game plan. This is what I want to do. Most people don't understand. You can be pre-approved for a $500,000 home, but there are 4 stages of payments that you have to do into the process of buying that home. You have that first $1,000 initial deposit.
Yep.
That's the conventional thing that most people do. Then you have that P&S payment.
That's right.
And that P&S payment, if you're paying 3.5% or 5% or 20%, the bulk of that payment comes at that stage, that P&S payment, which is usually 2 weeks after you've gotten an agreed offer. Then after that, obviously you have the inspection fees that come in. That's
Yep.
good, 500, $600. I'm sure you remember
Yep.
the inspection. And
Mhm.
then after that, you have your closing costs, which are about 1 to 3% of your loan.
That's right.
So there's money hitting you solidly for about 30 days.
Yes.
And most times what happens is people will come and say, hey, look, I'm ready to buy a house. I'm pre-approved. And then they get hit with that $1,000 in fine. And then when that 3.5 or 5% fee is due in about 2 weeks, they're stuck in the water. They don't know what to do. I didn't know I had to pay this amount of money. I didn't know I had to pay these closing costs.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So you need to have your money ready, but you
Yes.
need to have a game plan at the beginning before you can get into all that.
Absolutely.
It saves a lot of people the headaches and the frustration of the 30-day process.
Yep.
Because usually about day 15, people are losing their minds as they're purchasing a home. So
There's a
you
lot
need
of
to have
signing
some.
papers, a lot of signing papers, a lot of money
Yeah, I
involved.
mean, by the time you get to the closing and you're sitting at that table signing 25 to 40 pages of your life away to this
Yep.
property,
Hmm.
you're losing your mind.
Yep.
So having someone that can kind of give you that heads up in advance
Yes.
really, really helps. For example, we have a client right now that, she wants to buy a house in a very hot market. We're working with her. We're trying to get everything done. She's put in 2 offers well above our asking price. And both been denied because the market is so hot. People are paying more than what she's offering.
Wow.
But what we did now is we said, okay, this is what your timetable is going to look like. This is what you need to have in place. And we're actually working her situation so that if she did get an agreed on offer today, we know, hey, look, we can close your house on the 5th if we
Mm.
had an offer
Yep.
set up and done today. So there's no lag time for you.
Yep.
So we can make it more appealing to a potential seller. So this is the kind of stuff that you need a broker for, to kind of navigate through all those crazy pieces and really make it work.
Yeah. Lawyers. Do I need a lawyer?
I would say yes.
Mm.
Some people's convention is that, hey, look, the bank is going to take care of me. The bank is not taking care of you. The bank is taking care of themselves.
Hmm.
And the bank's goal is to make sure that the bank's interest in that home
Yep.
is preserved. You want to make sure that you have an attorney that will support you and at least help you to make sure that everything is fair for not just for you against the seller, but you
Yes,
against the terms that are in the bank.
that's right.
Um,
And
this is,
the time that you have
yeah,
to do everything.
exactly. I mean, the timetable for things, hey, banks are very aggressive with their mortgage payments, obviously, and they should be.
Hmm.
Say you get into an arrears and you can't pay your bill. What does that look like? How
Yep.
does that look? What is the terminology for your arrangements?
Yep.
In worst case scenarios where you have maybe a hard lender gave you the money, or maybe you did it with a less than savory bank, a less than
Hmm.
conventional bank, you want to make sure that you have someone that's actually advocating for you in the
Yes.
details of the 40 pages that you're signing your life away
Yep.
on. So definitely, I would say an attorney is necessary.
We had an attorney when we purchased through my job. They had I was able to use that at like a group legal, and then
Mhm,
the attorney was able to represent us and walk us
mhm.
through the P&S process, which is like, it's totally different when you put in that offer, because that one sheet is very easy and simple,
Very easy.
but that P&S process is definitely different, and especially if
Hmm.
you want to make sure that certain things are there when they're
Hmm.
supposed to be there. Even when we purchased this home, everything was in there. We were supposed to have a washer and dryer. That was in the P&S. But later down the line, when we were going through the purchase process, they wanted to keep the washer and dryer. It was already in the P&S. We didn't make a big deal out of it. We ended up
Hmm.
just buying a new washer and dryer. But it's important, especially because you can come in and there's no refrigerator. You know what I mean? And there was a
Yep. Oh,
refrigerator there, and you're not
oh yeah.
prepared for those $2,000, $3,000, and
Mhm.
so you got to make sure that there's a person who's representing you, putting in every detail for you.
Absolutely. I remember a couple of years ago, I was working with a client who was selling their, one of those sprawling houses in Dorchester, one of those huge, 5,000 square foot homes in Dorchester, and we were selling it. And she, you know, the seller was like, okay, these are the parameters of what I want. They had no attorney.
Hmm.
And she said, well, that's fine. I remember going there the day before the closing and seeing her taking down all the chandeliers in the
Oh my
house, taking
gosh.
down all of the different pieces. And I asked her, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Well, I know that he said he wanted these things, but it wasn't specified in this way, and so
Wow.
I have a right to do what I want to do."
Yeah.
Just a mess, just a
Yeah.
hot mess.
You can't
And
always
so
trust that people going to do the right thing.
you can't, and this is why you have attorneys. This is why you need
Yep.
legal representation, and you don't have all the answers. I mean, a lot of people think that this is like, they watch HGTV,
Yeah.
they watch all these different shows and think that this is what you do when
Three
you come into
houses
these
and I'm going to
situations.
pick one.
Yeah, no, that's not. I'm a butterfly farmer, and she's a homemaker, and we have $1 million
Yeah, no.
pre-approval. We're gonna go buy this house, and it's just, hey, look, it's all done.
Yep.
That's not how this works. There's a lot of legality to this. I
Hmm.
mean, you do this and you don't do this, and this is the response that I can have to this, and I can take you to court. You can agree to sell your house to me today, and say no, I don't want to do it anymore. I have a right to take you to court
That's
and
right.
go to the full gamut. For my rights that you violated. So
Yep.
people have to be very careful of what they're doing, and
Yeah.
that's why you definitely need an attorney.
It's a serious
Definitely.
agreement, but it's great at that end of that process. Once you finish signing that last piece of paper and
Yes,
they hand
sir.
you over those keys and they say, "This
Hmm.
is yours." I mean,
Hmm.
yours and the bank's, but this is yours.
It's
this,
yours.
this is yours. This is
As
yours.
long as you keep the
As
agreement
long as
that
you
you
do
made
it.
with the bank, it's yours.
That's right. That's
I
right.
mean, and that's the part that I actually love the most in the process. I mean, when I'm working the process with any client, I'm really focused on getting the things that we agreed to when we started. Like,
Mm.
okay, you want these particular things. This is what you're looking for. I'm advocating for you all the way through the process. So even if you never hear me talk to you about some of the back room situations that are happening,
Yeah.
I'm literally constantly in contact with different groups trying to make sure that this works out for you.
Yep.
And then when we close, it's celebration time. I mean, our company's been blessed to be able to give people things that are really surprising and exciting. We sent, I think when Beyonce came to, what was it, Foxborough Stadium,
Hmm.
a couple of years ago, we sent one of our clients 2 tickets front row to the Beyonce concert. They had a blast. They thought that was the greatest thing in the world. We've given people, $150 tickets to Ruth Chris. steakhouse and different things, just to celebrate
Yep.
the idea of you closing this deal and going in this direction.
Yes.
Hopefully that you'll love for years to come. And then after it's all done, we obviously stay with you for a season to make sure that, hey, look, you're acclimated to this. You
Yep.
know when your trash day is. You know when your first tax bill is supposed to happen. What's happening with that? And then eventually push you on to happy trails with your real estate, unless you need something from us after the fact. But
Trash could be
it's a great
different.
experience.
Trash could be different. When I was in Boston, you put
Yeah.
anything out there and they take it. Over here,
Yep.
you got to have a certain put it in this
Yep.
container. You got to pay for
Yep.
additional bags. There's all kinds of
Has to
rules.
be a certain way.
Yep.
And people don't know that about their areas. I mean, there's so much different in different areas that you need someone who knows the in and outs of it. So yeah.
And who also cares to take you through that process, because not every agent is going to do it right. So it's very important that you find the right ones and you go with people that you can trust, like TMW Realty.
Thank you, sir. That's the truth. That's the truth.
But and I want to speak to that because I want to transition into you were speaking to what you did for your clients and
Hmm.
the appreciation that you show them for patronizing your business by
Hmm.
giving them a token. So I want to talk to you about being a business owner.
Hmm.
Um, One, I want to start with, because I personally know this is not something you have been doing this your whole life. This is,
Hmm.
you transition from a 9 to 5
Hmm.
to being a business owner, and I want to know
Hmm.
more about that process, because I believe
Hmm.
there's some people out there who want to transition into either a real estate agent or just in general moving from a 9 to 5 job into owning their own business and operating their own company. So what was that
Hmm.
process like for you?
So I had a good job prior to coming over to doing my own business, and it's actually the scariest thing in the world to shift from the security of a 9 to 5
Mm.
to the world of entrepreneurship. I mean, most people think this is some grand, we escape this and live in the
Yeah.
life and do whatever you want. You actually work more in the entrepreneur arena than you did in the 9 to 5.
Mm.
So with me, I was working for the city of Boston, doing a 9 to 5. But my job was real estate related. I was actually dealing with the valuation of all the condos in
Mm.
Boston. So, you have 144,000 condos that you're dealing with. You go and inspect, you go and get the valuations, and you look at it. And I've always believed in the idea of being my own owner of a business. I think that the whole focus of it is legacy, building something from
Yeah.
scratch, putting my creative hand to something that I think would help and also help people.
Yeah.
And so we shifted out of the job over time. I got a part-time real estate license, and if you know anything about Boston, you can't do real estate in Boston if you are working for the city of Boston.
Really?
And so, yeah, I couldn't sell in Boston while being a real estate agent. So what I had to do was take all of my influence and move it into the outliers, like the Stoughton's, the Randolphs,
Yeah.
the all the outliers of Boston, which is very difficult if you live in Boston to
Hmm.
shift that way. But what I realized is, you know, I committed a certain amount of time for work, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
and then from 6 to 2 a.m. in the morning each
Mm.
night, went to my second job, which was doing this company and really
Yep.
starting to build the reputation, build the understanding, build the processes of how to do this business well. Everything starts with foundation,
Mm.
and I think a lot of people want to do entrepreneurial careers or they want to start businesses, but don't create the foundation.
Mm.
You can't try to be the top real estate company in the city of Boston or in Massachusetts without first creating the foundations of how that's done. And you have to watch
Yep.
good people. I was blessed to be part of a good real estate company that I still love and respect. My friend Robert Nichols from Boston Trust Realty Group, to have a good mentor to kind of show you the ropes and give you an understanding of what to do. And I did ride alongs with him and watched how he did real estate and took the things that I thought would work toward me and what I do. And then really began to build a system. And that system built processes. And that process then built an understanding of how to win. And so, I think in my second year, I sold like 13 homes. And then, began to realize that, hey, look, I'm making more money in my real estate at the outliers than I
Yep.
am doing my 9 to 5. And so then, I think in my third year, just before I got my real estate broker's license, I shifted out of working for the city. Uh, that was scary, man.
Mm.
I will not lie. I think one of the scariest moments was giving my resignation and then realizing that you have to rely on only what you do to make this work.
Yeah, you gotta eat
Uh,
what you
it,
kill.
it's scary, and it's not something that you can't BS your way through the process of doing what you're doing in your business.
Mm,
I think the major foundation it always lies in having the integrity to do it right for every single client. And
I
I
like
don't
that.
think people understand that concept that, I'm not just doing you right because I want to get money from you. That's not the goal. I'm doing you right because of the legacy of doing right that carries on past you.
Yeah.
People don't carry good about your name as easily as they carry negative. People will always take the negatives of what you didn't do right versus the good things that you did do right. And so I always try to make sure that I give people the greatest experience, even if it was in detriment to myself. I mean, I think that second year of being full time, we lost money like crazy trying to make sure that people were actually more benefited than we were benefited as a company.
Mm,
But over time, people realized, hey, this company goes above and beyond for me. And that led to now people being able to follow the foundations of what we've done, which is why we have all the agents that work with us now and are able to continue to build and are moving into flips and commercial because we're constantly pushing to keep that foundation right. You can build anything on a good foundation,
mm.
but you have to build it right from the start.
And how many agents do you have now?
So now we're working with 7 agents, which is excellent.
Mhm.
We're planning on expanding that. Someone used to ask me, well, do you want to have 50 agents or 1,000 agents? That's all great, but there are a lot of people who are agents that aren't agents. And when I say agents, they're just bodies that you have on paper to show
Yeah.
that you have this roster of people,
Yeah.
but they've never sold a house, they've never dealt with a client, they've never done anything. And I really don't aspire to that. So, I even interview my agents before they even come on the team. Like we have to have a sit down conversation. We go through
Mm,
what your plan is, what your goal is. Do you match the tenor of what we're trying to do? Can you do what we're trying to do? Because we want you to succeed. And in your success, we want you to do it in a way that will not only build a good brand for you, but a good brand for what we're doing. And if you don't match that, then you can't be part of this team
mm.
because we don't want to bring in someone who's going to cause our team to now look terrible as it relates to the type of things that we do. We don't shortchange people. We don't try to shift people or be shifty or shady.
Yeah.
We definitively try to make sure that people get the very best service from beginning to end. And if you have people who are kind of, wheeling and dealing and lying to their clientele
Yeah.
or not doing what they're supposed to do, that's not the type of thing that we want.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who say they want to come over, they go through a process to make sure that they're actually qualified to be over.
Yeah.
Um, and it takes time.
Hiring is intimidating to me. It's something I'm in the
Yeah.
process. I want to build a business, and I will have to hire a bunch of people. But what is your process for hiring? Like, do you have like a list of questions that you ask? Is it a field that you're looking for? What is
Yeah.
it
I
that
mean,
you're looking to do when you're building
It
your team?
some of it's feel, some of it's more the conversation of what they're doing, and then the next portion of it is what you do when you come along. 'Cause, I usually take people along with me.
Mm.
I love to interview people when I'm doing an open house or when I'm
Mm,
doing a client meetup. If I'm doing a presentation, a listing presentation, I love bringing on agents at that point to see how they react to the on-site moment of dealing with the client.
yeah.
And what they hear, what they thought, how they felt, what they're trying to do. A lot of agents come on from, we've had maybe 2 agents come on from old companies who were upset because they didn't get enough training or they didn't get enough, one-on-one time. And just hearing how and what they're trying to accomplish and where they're trying to go, and if it fits the general tenor of what we're doing, that's how we usually try to hire.
Mm,
And everybody that I've brought on, I guess it is a field. They have the same uh, I don't want to say spirit, but they have the same vibe that I have toward the business.
Yep.
That vibe is essential. I mean, if people don't vibe with you, if I wouldn't take you and want to hang out with you or present you to people that I care about, or show you to someone that is business important to me, you know, maybe you don't fit that vibe.
Yeah.
And every company is different. I know of some companies that, they have different types of people, and that's fine. But I want people who have that integrity and have that vibe for what we're going after and are consistent. If your clients are starting to tell me, hey, look, I haven't gotten a phone call back from him or her for 3 days, that's not how we do this.
Yep.
I mean, I was in Europe 2 years ago. I was in Europe when a client was calling me, 6-hour time difference. I was taking my wife to Paris, and we were doing our thing. And I was on the phone with my client having the conversation over in Europe,
Yeah.
trying to make her situations work for her
Yep.
in Boston. So, that type of dedication is what we look for. And that's how we try to hire. And I know my wife didn't appreciate that, but it was what it was. She was mad all day.
So when you became an agent, was it always a plan for you to build your own brokerage? Was this a part
Yeah.
of?
Yeah. I mean, I've always believed, um, I first have to say that, the agency that I was in, Boston Trust, BTRG, was absolutely amazing. I mean, Robert Nichols, I've known him since we were in elementary school.
Oh wow.
So, again, good vibe,
Yeah.
great guy, good, solid person, love him to death. But I've always wanted to own my own,
Yeah.
because of what I want to build. I never looked at my company as just an offset of just real estate. I've
Mm.
always looked at it as there are multiple layers to what we're going to build,
Yeah.
which is why it's under the umbrella of TMW Enterprises.
Yeah.
It's to build bigger things.
Yeah.
We have portfolio. Any business book that you look at will talk about your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have going on? I mean,
Yeah.
there are properties that we own. There are things that we're trying to do. There are enterprises that we're trying to build upon. And so, to do that, you have to have an entity of your own to establish those branch off pieces. Um, and so, what we've established is building and perfecting real estate so that we can now branch off and do the other things that we really want to do,
Yep.
on top of real estate. Uh, I think people are too quick to pigeonhole people into one specific aisle for who they are.
Uh-huh.
And my goal is always to be as dynamic as I possibly can be and do as much as I can do, to fulfill every area that I think my life should be, branching off into.
Do you goal set? Do you write down your goals?
Absolutely. It's funny. I've always been a goal setter, um, and my wife and I have always been goal setters. We always are pushing to, complete the greatest amount of things in a certain amount of time.
Mm.
Um, so we do have goals for, this year obviously has been decimated by COVID, but we do
Yep.
have goals that we've set even for this year in the midst of everything that's going on to
Yeah.
become, and go where we're trying to go. So
Yep.
yeah, goal setting is essential. I mean, what are you trying to do in 5 years? Where do you want this business to go?
Yeah.
What do you want to see this business become? How do you want it to become? What it's going to become? What is it going to take to get there? Who do you need to incorporate in your team to make that happen?
Mm.
All of that's what makes a business really thrive. And so, we spend a lot of time kind of seeing, okay, where are we trying to go with this? Every advertisement, every discussion, every group meeting, every, brand awareness. We used to be wearing TMW hats all the time. Then it was
Mm.
TMW shirts. Then it was, we do all these things. Why are we doing this? What are we
Yeah.
trying to become? What do we want the brand to be known for? And where is this going to be in 5 years? Are we going to branch off and have second locations or third
Yeah.
locations? Or what are we doing? So yeah, it's important to goal set.
Reading. You do a lot of reading?
Yes, I think COVID's actually helped that process too. Right now, I'm reading a book, Surrounded by Idiots, and it sounds like a crazy book, but it really talks about the types of people that you deal with.
Mm,
In my type of business, you're dealing with people all the time.
yeah.
And understanding what the psychosis is of people helps you to be able to tolerate and deal with what they're going to be bringing to you. Some people are red people, some people are blue people, some people are yellow people, some people are green people, and they all have different um, triggers and reasonings to why
Mm,
they do what they do. So, it's important to read and to kind of expand your mind beyond the generalities of what you normally deal with.
yep.
So if you're out there and you're listening and you're looking for a book to read, Surrounded by Idiots would probably be the best book you could possibly read right now, on learning how to deal with people. Because that's 90% of what you need in marketing or real estate or anything that's people related.
That's beautiful. I do on audiobooks. You do audiobooks also. I've been doing a lot of audiobooks lately.
I actually do
Okay.
paperback books, like, flip the page.
Yep.
One of the hardest things to do is to find time to read. I've got
Uh-huh.
3 children, all under 6. I mean, you understand my plight because
Oh yeah.
you're over there with your team.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You're dealing with a bunch of small children, so it makes it really difficult to find the time to read amidst trying to find the time to be a good husband, trying to find the time to run your business. So paperback really works for me because, hey, look, if I have a 300-page book, there are 30 days in a month. I know I got to read 10 pages a day.
Yeah.
I can break that up into, 5 and 5, or two, 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 two,
Yeah.
and make it really work out for me to have a system to get that book done.
Mm.
But it really helps. I mean, paperback is my way. I mean, I know some people who have far drives to take. If you're driving into the city, or if you're coming out of the South Shore and you're going into downtown Boston, maybe you want to, get an audiobook. It's easier for you, that hour commute, back and forth.
Yep.
Uh, but for me, paper is the way to go.
Perfect. Um, how do you organize your day? I mean,
My day organizes me.
okay.
Listen, certain days are set up by what's going on in my general family. So, for example, my wife's a nurse practitioner. Um, you know, this COVID situation is crazy for her.
Yeah.
So I
Front
base on,
front
okay,
line. She.
what,
Yep.
yeah, it's tough. So whatever she's doing, whatever her schedule is the first layer that's cut off for the time, because, in the absence of schools and the absence of places for my children to go,
Yeah.
uh, if she's not present,
Yep.
then I have to be present. And so that now shifts things to, okay, on these days, these particular days that she has to be on site for the hospital, I have to now prepare to deal with the 3 children. And then on those alternative days when she's not, those are my main days to now either deal directly with clientele. I can do most of the general paperwork, documentation, and business running of my company
Yeah.
on days that my children are present,
Mm.
as long as I have their curriculum intact.
Yep.
But those days to actually meet with people, I shifted to those off days. So, this is kind of a weirder setup than it was when COVID wasn't present.
Yeah.
Um, thank God for schools.
Yep.
Uh, but it's a process. I mean, we usually have a meeting, at the end of the week. Okay, this is what next week's going to look like. This is what I have going on. We have a calendar that's shared amongst the whole house of what's coming up and who has what going on and what schedule, and so we know where
Okay.
everyone's going and what everyone's doing. And I just plug in my time frames and try to, is
Make it
that going to
work.
be removed because of your situation? And we just make it work to the best of our ability.
I like that. Is it a digital is something it's
Digital, yeah.
physical.
So I mean,
Okay.
I'm a big Apple fan.
Yep.
MacBook, Mac, iMac, iPad, iPhone.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, just
Watch
put the whole,
everything. Yep.
the watch, the whole nine. So
Yep.
everything that goes on at every time, I have it scheduled on my calendars, and I know, okay, everyone knows where I'm going to be, and it's kind of a good system too for a person who has to meet with people in different locations.
Yeah.
Um, you know, in my calendar, it says, hey, look, I'm meeting with so and so at this house in Ashland, Mass. Okay, I'm going to be there for this amount of time frame. And, we just plug in our scheduling, so it makes it easier to know what we're doing.
Is that your best business tool? Your calendar?
Yeah, I mean, beyond the real estate tools themselves, yes, I think The
Okay.
calendar is essential. If you don't have a good management of your time
Yep.
as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
this is not going to work for you. If you need to be motivated by someone telling you, okay, this is when you take lunch and this is when you
Yeah.
have your break and these are the things that you do, this isn't the type of world that you want to get involved in
You
because
may
it
not get a
requires you
lunch.
to, yeah, lunch. What's lunch? You know, my lunch is this ginger ale I'm drinking right now. But it requires you to be, really diligent with what you're doing,
Yep.
and so calendar is essential.
Um, a lot of people prepare. I mean, you could do a lot of reading about opening a business. You could, but it's very different once you get into the nitty gritty. When you
Yeah.
started your business, what could you say? There's something that you did not expect that caught you off guard, or something that you learned while you were operating.
Oh man. Surprisingly, one of the things that I learned um, starting out was I expected that when I started my business that everybody was going to support,
Um,
especially people I knew. And and that statement sounds very naive,
yeah,
but it's an expectation of especially people who are close to you.
yeah,
I thought, friends and family members and people who were interested would really come and support my business. But I came to find out really quickly all of the houses I sold, especially at the beginning of my business, were people I didn't know, were
mm,
people who weren't connected to me, were people who didn't, and it wasn't like my people weren't my cousins or sisters or aunts or whomever weren't buying and selling homes.
yeah,
Uh, they just weren't using.
yeah,
They were using my services, and so I remember when one of my aunts sold their house. They sold a really nice house, and not even a consideration of utilizing my services.
mm,
It was a jarring moment because real estate has a great deal of rejection.
yeah,
I mean, you just have to imagine, you can get 500 no's before your first yes.
mm,
Um, one of the statistics actually say that most people don't get a sale in their first year of business. And that's just a
wow,
reality. Most people never get a real estate sale. Um, it was just an amazing experience to deal with people who would ask you questions about real estate but never actually utilize your service.
wow,
And so that was actually a hardship dealing with that fact that family or friends or close people to you weren't interested in actually working with you.
mm-hmm,
And then I think the next thing that was really jarring was just how much requirement the business actually called for.
mm,
Um, Being in real estate is not cheap, and that's why I find it's humorous to me when everyone says, "Oh, I'm gonna start this side hustle and get into real estate," not understanding, just the dues, the fees, the responsibility part of certain organizations to use certain systems. You know, none of this is cheap. None of this is free.
yep,
And so if you're side hustling, you could be out, $3,000 up front before even getting your first sale.
mm-hmm,
It's jarring
yep,
for a lot of people. So it's something that really shifted my opinions of things, of how to make the system actually work. Because it's not about, in any way, shape, or form, it's not about you um, just saying you have a business. Everybody
mm,
says they have a business. If you're a
mm,
landscaper and you want to cut grass and be a landscaper, you could just go make a little sign for yourself and say, I'm a landscaping company. But the difference is your system actually going to process something so that you actually make money? Are you spending more on expenditures and not making real income? Can you see growth over the years? If you're not
mm,
seeing any growth,
yep,
you know, shut it down,
yeah.
man.
That's real. That's real. Cause you see a lot of people own businesses, but it's generally like a one person business. Like I'm a plumber and I do some plumbing. It's like so you don't you're the you're really just working. You're really just working. Yeah, because you're not building a business. You're not building something that can built that can go on its own. Like when you have a team of people, you're building something that you can pull yourself out. Can you pull yourself out? Can you stop selling houses and still have a brokerage that is still bringing in revenue, or
Exactly.
outside of that? So I think it's something that a lot of people have to think about when they're going into business, because you see, just in other fields, that I had a clothing company,
Hmm.
and people step into it and they jump right into, I want to print my own T-shirts, and then really you just end up becoming a printer for yourself, as opposed to a person who's building a company. There's a big difference between a person who's going in their garage and screen printing T-shirts and selling them from, what Tommy Hilfiger is doing. Like you don't have to touch every single garment. It's not about that.
Hmm.
It's about building the structure. Yeah. So all right.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we talked about organization. Earlier we talked about your wife. You have 3 children,
I do. I
and
do.
you're right now you're at home with your 3 children, and you're trying to balance. You're doing
Balance.
that tightrope walk of
Oh
balancing
man.
being a father and being a business owner.
Yes,
What is
sir.
that like? How does Thomas White balance these things?
Listen, well, first and foremost, my children, my wife and my children are the backbone of everything I do.
Mm,
I love first I you already know I love my wife. My
mm-hmm.
wife is awesome. She is the exact thing. She was handpicked by God for me
Mm,
from the beginning of time. So I love her to death. She's amazing. She's exactly what I need. And my kids are my heartstrings. I love them to death. I
mm,
have my oldest daughter and then my 2 little boys.
yep.
And, life is real, real good. It is challenging. I honestly, that is probably more challenging than doing the real estate company and doing the business, is being able to um, mold and shape and love different personalities that are my children
Mm,
and still be fully engaged and have time with my wife. It's so difficult
yep.
because you know, especially in this time, I mean, you don't get any time away from your kids at all
Yeah.
to do anything alternative or different. But it's amazing, man. And I know I couldn't do any of this without Michelle.
Yeah.
Um, but man, like the kids are amazing. The kids are absolutely amazing. They're smart, they're fun, they're crazy, they're wild. And I have a certain level of OCD already. So I'm a neat freak, as you know. I
Mm,
hate seeing things out of place. So I constantly try to clean up.
yep.
But it's just having children 6 and under is tough. It's
Kids
tough.
aren't neat freaks. They're the total opposite of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My children are jumping around the floors, trying to write on walls, and trying to get the energy out that they have, and that's fine. I think one of the biggest transitions in this COVID time is I've become their teacher. So
Mm,
I have school curriculum for my kids, and fortunately, the schools that they were sent to actually sent them curriculum for
okay.
well, at least the older two. 7-month-year-old, there's no hope for him. He just feed me and play with
Hmm.
me and whatever. But the other two, they have curriculum, so you're trying to like do their curriculums and give them time, and then they're also dealing with the trauma of COVID too.
Yeah,
And I don't think people really understand. Your children are really struggling with dealing with this separation and this isolation to just your house and just you.
that's right.
So, we try to find ways to kind of like make them happy and, take them out, and we ride bikes, and
Yeah.
I think even tonight we had one of those pinatas for Cinco de Mayo from yesterday,
Oh,
and had them popping the pinata. We try to do different things to keep them um, occupied and established and still enjoying um, life as much as they should,
yeah,
while also trying to balance everything else that we're doing. So
yeah,
they're the priority now.
yeah.
Like everything else can be second to them,
Hmm.
but we try our best to make everything work.
So Three kids, a wife, a booming business.
Trying.
What does legacy mean to you? Because that's what I hear.
Yeah, yeah. I think the best one word I can give to legacy is longevity.
Mm.
I think your legacy lies in, who said it before? Your legacy lies in the last person that knows your name. Um, and so what I really want to do and establish is um, two very different types of legacies. I have the legacy that I want to establish in my children,
Mm.
so that you know I was really blessed to have really good parents growing up. My wife was blessed to have good parents too, um, and that's a real big fortune for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't have that.
Mm.
But what I've always wanted to establish is take all the really good things that I got from my parents and infuse the things that I felt could be even stronger
Yep.
for my kids. So, I one thing I always believe in is I'm not raising my kids just to have them established and leave. You know how it is. Your parents say, okay, once you hit 18, you're gone, and I don't
Yeah.
want to deal with you. I'm really trying to raise my kids so that they're established and can be on their own and self-sufficient and what have you, to then in turn be able to be a support system for them, for my
Mm.
grandchildren. I want that anyone who comes up under the white name for my children are so strong that years later they'll say that it was Papa Thomas that established this shift in our family to bring
Mm.
us up to that next place.
I love it.
So no one ever went back into poverty. Everybody was able to get their degrees. Everyone was able to be financially solvent and do the things that they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Versus my children and my sons and my daughters being able to have to go back and reinvent the wheel over and over again. Because in our culture, um, in our people,
Mm-hmm.
what you find happening all the time is that we're constantly having to reinvent the wheel every generation.
Mm.
So mama didn't do it and daddy didn't do it. So now I'm trying to reinvent the wheel for myself. I spend all of my years trying to do that, don't establish a good relationship in my children. So then they now are still coming back and trying to pick up the pieces and reinvent the wheel again, rather than standing on the precipice of what I did and being able to take it to the next level.
Mm.
Um, and so, I'm not saying my children have to be in real estate or be involved in that aspect of life, but I want to make sure that they're positioned so that, by the time my son hits 16, I want him to own his first home.
Mm.
Not 30, not 35, not
Yeah.
40, like so many people are going into.
Yeah.
I want, hey, look, he owns a triple decker and he's 16. She owns two houses and she's established. So that there's no gap in the ability to grow to the next level, because you've already been implanted in those ideas starting early. And so we try to find ways, just like every parent, try ways to build and mold them to be prepared for things that we're going to introduce to them. Um, you know, Surprisingly, I have my son and daughter sometimes in my office, and they see what I'm doing.
Mm.
My daughter says to me all the time, "Can I join TMW?" I said, "You're already a member of TMW, baby. You can,
That's
this is what
beautiful.
you're going to do, and you can do um, virtually anything, and this is where we want you to go."
Yeah.
Because you want them to be established, and it
Yes.
can't happen if you're not constantly trying to embed in them the things for the future. So
Yep.
yeah, legacy is everything. It's the longevity of the future that you're passing down.
That is beautiful. Um, I know you, and I know you to be a man of faith.
Yes, sir.
And how has your faith come into play when you've built what it is you're building?
I
How have
think
you?
how's faith come in a
Yeah, how have you used your faith to
yeah.
build your business?
I think my faith shapes everything I do.
Okay.
Um, so it shapes my commitments, it shapes my integrity to deal with certain things, to deal with certain people, to lie or not to lie.
Mm.
Uh, how it really builds the character of what we're doing. And so, I would say my business is definitely built on um, faith that I know that I can take a loss because of integrity and still be all right. You
Mm.
know, a lot of people don't have that mentality that, this seems like a hustle system. People will lie to you, they'll tell you all kind of falsehoods, they'll scheme you, they'll manipulate you. Um, and especially because of the way money is transacted in the businesses that we run, um, people do all kinds of stuff. Um, I try to make sure that my faith in what I do, um, as it relates to people, businesses, and the backroom things that we do,
Mm.
are aligned to what I believe and what I believe God is trying to tell me to do. Um, you know, some people may think it's crazy and some people may not think it's necessary, but I tithe. I tithe off of everything that the company does.
Mm.
I remember there have been some times where I've had to tithe some checks that would blew my mind. know, you're I used to pray and ask God, I said, God, I want to be a $3,000 tither a week. I really,
Mm.
that's what I want, God. I want to be a $3,000 tither a week. Now, simple math will tell you if you want to be a $3,000 tither a week, how much money do you need to be making a week to tithe three thousand
30,000.
dollars? You need to be making 10 times that amount.
Yep.
Exactly. So I wanted to get $30,000 a week.
Hmm.
And the first time I had to give a $3,000 tithe, the first time I ever had to do that, blew my mind. It literally, and I think the moment that came up, um, it was like, okay, God, and you start getting tight on that money. Like, I don't want this money to go. God. I know what I can do with this money. But it really showed me that if you keep your faith and let your business be aligned to your faith, that God will bless it. One of the hardest things to do is to tell people, no, I'm not going to show houses on Sunday because I
Mm.
want to stay committed to, or at least stay committed to the time frame that I would go to church.
Yeah.
Um, and some people are like, "You're crazy, dude. That's ridiculous. I'm not gonna. You need to show houses whenever people call." I'm like, no, man. If Sunday service is happening and I'm supposed to be at church for Sunday service, I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna commit to the time frame. And what I found was, anytime I strayed away from the principles, like the inherent principles of tithing or staying faithful to worship or reading my word or
Mm.
just being committed to God in general, I found that my business would start to deflate or would go in the wrong direction. And every time I stayed consistent, my business would increase. And so, maybe it doesn't work for everybody as far as people's opinion, but I can tell you one thing. Every time I put God at the forefront of my business, everything has changed for me in the better. And so faith is the tool that makes it all go. Because reality is in any business, really, whether you're a chef, you're a clothing designer, a real estate broker, a landscaper, whatever business you have, why do people use you? Why do people use you? You could say, well, I'm the best landscaper around. I'm the best clothing designer around. I'm the best, um, you know, chef around, or the best real estate company around. Beyond the skills that you have, the bigger portion is that your faith and what God is doing through you is what's opening up doors that you wouldn't believe. I've had doors open up that I did honestly had no business walking through.
Mm.
I remember one of the largest deals I ever did was at a time frame that I wasn't even qualified to do the deal, and I had to lean so heavily on my broker at the time. I mean, an average real estate transaction could be $400,000, $500,000
Yep.
as the sale of the house. This was like $1 million sale money coming to you, and you had no business being in that room.
Mm.
You had no business being in that conversation, and the only reason why you were there was because of favor that God blessed you with.
Mm.
So for me, it works, man. God is working through everything that we do. And the more faith we impose back to him, the greater he blesses us to be able to do more things. So I'm sold out on that idea of faith.
I love it. Do you have a scripture that you use?
Oh, come on now. You're gonna hit me with
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying there may be something that you have that you keep in your pocket that
no, man,
says that.
I didn't come with my scriptures ready for no, I don't have a scripture verse to throw at anybody. I mean, if I could just say one verse that's helpful for anybody is pray without ceasing. I mean, First
Mm.
Thessalonians 5. 17. Pray without ceasing. And I think that that will get you through a lot of good and bad nights. Right now, everyone's dealing with this COVID crisis. I have some friends who told me some horror stories. I
Yeah.
mean, people who are doing so much better in so many other arenas who are losing their minds. They've lost millions of dollars. Look at every system, even right now as we're talking. Some of the most high end entities have gone out of business or gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
They just announced on the news yesterday, Neiman Marcus has filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
You know, business entities, healthcare systems
Yeah.
are in disrepair financially because of this crisis.
Yeah.
You know, this is a time where you have to be able to pray and
Yeah.
believe that you're going to be all right.
On the
You
other end.
know,
Yeah.
how do you survive? How do you survive a famine?
Yeah.
How do you survive a tragic event? How do you bounce back from these type of things? What did you learn during this crisis? How did it help you? Did you slit your throat? Did you hang yourself, or did you get on your knees and thank God and move forward
Hmm.
so that you can get to the next place that He wants you to go?
Yeah.
Everything's a lesson,
Yeah.
and so this is just another lesson in time.
How do you use the time also? I mean, I know we're both home with our families, and
Hmm.
it has its moments of it can be trying, but it's also beautiful.
Hmm.
We're able to spend the time that we didn't necessarily have before, especially when you're just transitioning in and out, just
Hmm.
picking up from school and dropping off, and mom's coming home. We're just doing nighttime, we're just doing dinners, and now is the time that you can actually have those extended conversations at the dinner table. You can
Yeah.
play those games, play that long Monopoly game, play Connect
Uh-huh.
Four,
Yeah.
have those Connect Four challenges,
Guess
and
who and all of those.
exactly, and just really enjoy this time and
Hmm.
enjoy the beauty that you could find, the slither of beauty that you could find in the moment, and count your blessings, especially people who are in a situation where they're not worried about where their next meal is coming from. And
Exactly.
also being courteous and looking out for your neighbor who is worried about where their next meal is coming
Exactly.
from. Um, this was great. This was great.
Thank
I
you. Thank
believe
you.
that we got some great information out here for the audience, for them to chew on and to start there. Give everybody information where they can find you, where they can look you up. Especially if they're in Boston, if they're in the Massachusetts Boston area, how could they find you?
Yeah, so we're a TMW Realty Group. You can go to our website at www.tmwrealtygroup.com.
Yep.
There's a bevy of agents that can help you. We're everywhere. You can go on our social media feeds. We are on everything except TikTok, I think, at this point. You can also meet us there. If you want to send a message or have any type of questions, you can do so by either calling us at 617-512-6468 or info@tmwrealtygroup.com. One of the agents will be more than happy to talk to you, discuss with you, and we can help you get where you need to go.
Perfect, perfect. Thomas, this was great. This was great.
Thank,
I really appreciate you doing this with me.
thank you for having me,
Being here.
man.
Thank you for being here on the podcast. I believe this is going to really be helpful for a lot of people. I'm gonna continue doing some things like this with some other great minds.
Yes,
Once
sir.
again, I'm Justin Brandon. This was Thomas White, and this was the Art of Man podcast experience. And we're out.
Yes, man.